Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith Fleischer, and I am the founder of the MF Gallery. Welcome to Street Macadam English Lives. I'm excited to be back for the 2026 series. I'm thrilled to be here today with Charles Ford. Charles is a street and portrait photographer drawn to the small, often overlooked moments of everyday life, the subtle human interactions that happen and disappear in an instant. After studying at UT Austin and earning a BFA from Art Center in Pasadena, he built a career shooting fashion and portraits for magazines such as Vogue, GQ, and Rolling Stone. But throughout the 1980s and early 90s in New York, he was always on the street with his Leica, quietly capturing fleeting moments of humanity on film. Recently, he revisited that archive and began printing and sharing the work, revealing a body of street photography that feels just as alive and resonant today. Interestingly, I've also just revisited some of my own 1990s New York street photography, so I'm especially excited to talk to Charles about what it means to look back at that era and at ourselves through time. So let's go ahead and invite Charles to join us. Hang on one sec here. It's been a minute since I've done one of these, so bear with me. Charles. Here we go. Let's see. Here we go. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Meredith.
Yeah, thanks for joining us here at Street Macadam today. We're
Great to be
thrilled
here.
to have you. Good, good. So, I hope I did an okay introduction. I don't know if you heard it.
It was pretty, I guess, pretty accurate. So,
All right, good. Did I
yeah.
miss anything? Is there anything that you want to start with?
Uh, well, this may be of interest to some people. I started off as I got a degree from the University of Texas, a business degree,
Oh,
and
okay.
worked for a short period of time. And my boss basically said, isn't there something else you'd be want to do with your life? And so I said, yeah, I think so. And that's when I went to Art Center.
Okay. All right.
But it's just a completely different background. I didn't go to,
Yeah.
didn't study photography at UT or anything before that. It's kind of, I
Okay.
moved into it.
And where are you now? Where are you located now?
I am in Houston. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, we've been here a little over 10 years. When after New York, we moved to Dallas,
Okay.
and then we were there for some time, and then moved down to Houston. But yeah, we had a daughter. Our daughter was born in New York City, and
Okay.
we just made the decision we didn't want to raise her in the subways and everything there. So
Yeah.
we just decided.
Hard.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
Originally I'm from Houston, so yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right. And so how long were you in New York though? Or where are you originally from?
Well, I grew up in Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we were in New York a little over 10 years. I had gone from Art Center to Dallas for a short period of time. I actually taught at the University of Texas in Austin a couple of semesters, and then uh,
Okay.
and then moved to New York City. Yeah, and was there for a little over 10 years. But like you
Okay.
said, I shot mainly fashion and portraits, and did work for a lot of magazines there.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Well, I have some questions, but we can always kind of veer off track, or, if people in the comments ask questions, we can revisit that.
Sure.
So you talked about being drawn to unrecognized moments. What makes
Mhm.
something feel photographable to you?
I would say for me, it is as I go around looking. I always have my camera with me, And if I recognize something that has a graphic quality to it, or the design of the image, it looks like it's coming together, and there's human interaction, either two humans or a group, or someone is interacting with their environment. That really is what I look for, is some sort of human interaction. And a lot of it, coming from Art Center, their design is a very big part of it. And also I was a commercial photographer, so I was,
Right.
always looking for, trying to design things. But as I walk the streets, I still shoot. And as I walk the streets, I look for these combinations that I can either see something coming in, that will happen, or it's happening now, and I shoot.
Okay. Yeah, I love that dog shot. That was the, like the promo for this whole
Right.
thing. I love
Yeah.
that. It's fantastic.
That was actually in Milan.
Oh,
That was
really?
yeah, it was a mechanics shop in Milan. And yeah, I was in Milan for probably about a week and a half, just shooting for a magazine and doing shots of street shots.
Yeah.
And we came across this mechanics, and they had dogs and everything. And I just walked in, and there's a bunch of different images in there, but I turned around and he was playing with the dogs, and so I captured that one. It's just decisive moment kind of thing.
Yes. It's fantastic. Yeah.
But if you look in the background, and I never noticed this before, but until afterwards, there's a dog food billboard
Oh,
behind it.
really?
So yeah, it just happened to be there.
That was a good one. That was a really
Yeah,
good one.
yeah.
You have some amazing stuff. I mean, I think I was looking more at the New York stuff, what was on your website. I, did a little
Hmm.
bit of a deep dive before we
Sure.
joined here. Fantastic work. So I was
Thank
really
you.
excited to meet with you and talk with you.
Well, thank you.
Um, on the street, excuse me, is it instinct or patience? And how do you know when to press the shutter?
That's a good question. For me, it's a combination of both. You
I
you,
agree.
uh, you have to be at the right place at the right time, but you also have to be looking, and if something's, like I said before, if it looks like something's going to happen, uh, it's anticipating that moment that you want to capture.
Yeah.
Occasionally, a lot of times it's right in front of you, and
Right.
you
It
kind of
just
have to just
happens and you're
get in
lucky enough to
position.
get it.
You got it. Uh-huh. Exactly.
All right. Um, in your opinion or in your experience, what separates a good street photograph from a great one? I always revisit this question.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's up to the viewer. Um, but for me, I like uh, to see some sort of emotion, or uh, either that, or I don't know, just the way the image is designed, or I don't know, design might not be the right word for it, but just the graphic nature of it, and then
Right.
what people are doing in that image. I I do. I always have humans in my images. Very rarely, occasionally I won't, but somewhere in the frame you're going to find a human, and they'll have something to do with what I've got in the frame. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a few excellent photographers that are doing images without people,
Yeah.
street work, not without people. And I appreciate
Right.
that. However, for my own work, I like to have that that human quality that people, when they look at
Yeah.
it, they can relate to it. And
Yeah.
uh, I think that it the way people react to things is the same as it was back in the 80s and present day. There's something about human nature that kind of is consistent. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So somebody asked in the questions, how much attention do you pay to composition?
Well, you, I think you have to pay a lot of attention to composition. Uh, you can have a really interesting image, and I've had numerous occasions where I have a photograph, and there's something really interesting. People are doing something that really, but the composition isn't right. I didn't quite get the right angle on it, and that can kill a photograph.
Yeah,
So it's a it's a balance, but composition is very important. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Going back to what you said about, always having the human element in your photographs, um, I'm the opposite. Like I always go for, more open space and less people.
Hmm.
I wasn't always like that back in the day when I was when I was revisiting some of my early work. I mean, I shot a lot of people, but it was also a very different time, We didn't have
Right.
cell phones and people weren't like being recorded and people weren't, people were it was just so different.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
felt like they were all being watched. So you
Correct.
could be more inconspicuous with a camera back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's interesting,
Yeah.
from hearing from different photographers' perspectives that
Right.
whether they like that human element or not and
Mhm.
why.
Yeah. I try to avoid taking photographs uh, of people on their cell phone,
Yeah.
and you know, it's it's actually one of those things that maybe in 40 years that'll be a real interesting thing that people are on their cell phones. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't avoid it really because everywhere you look, everybody's looking down.
Everyone's looking
Yeah,
down.
yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, cell phones have really changed. Well, it's changed everything. So
I don't know. Do you find it harder photographing, like getting that human element when you shoot on the streets now because of cell phones?
not really. I
Okay.
because I think there's always there's always a moment that everybody, even though they're on cell phones, it goes down at some point, or the things that are interesting uh, that happen, they happen all the time, and maybe there's a cell phone involved, or maybe somebody in the background's on the cell phone or whatever. But I don't know. I've heard of a lot of people say that it's harder to shoot street now because people are aware, like you were saying, people are aware of being photographed, and I think that's true, but I think that uh, it's just you you just everything kind of it's all the same. You you had the same kind of thing going on in the 80s as you do now.
Yeah. So someone in the comments said, do we really need to describe a photo or photo wait.
But it
Do we
should
really
have strong emotion, which says lots of things without saying a word.
Yeah.
I'm reading that down at the
Okay.
bottom.
Okay.
Uh, I think that a photograph, um, I never put titles on my photographs. It's just the place and the date.
Yeah.
And I leave it up to whoever's viewing the image to make that decision, what it means to them. And
Right.
and I'd say, you know, you put 10 people in front of one photograph, and you're going to get 10 different readings off of that photo.
Absolutely.
I don't think you need to describe the photo. And the emotion should be there.
Yeah. Um, so when you look at those 80s and 90s images now, do you feel like you're seeing the city or a younger version of yourself?
Am I seeing the city or version of my younger
A younger
self?
version I mean, I would,
Yeah, I mean, most photographs I look at uh, that I've taken, I can remember almost everything that I've shot, where I was and what was going on. Just kind of have that sort of memory. It's a little strange, but uh, it's I don't feel that much different when I'm out photographing than I did when I was photographing as a younger person in the 80s. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it there's kind of a a feeling that I get when I'm photographing, and I
yeah.
see something. An energy or kind of a rush, and it's the same as it was back in the 80s as it
Yeah.
is present.
It's interesting because when I was revisiting some of my work, like I had no recollection of some of these images, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
where is this? When, like,
Yeah.
and it's, I mean, you said that you remember, pretty much all of your images, and I don't have that. I'm not having that experience, and it's sort
Yeah.
of awkward because I was
Yeah.
like, where did this come from? This is kind of cool. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
know where in New York this is. Like, it
Right.
was just sort of fascinating to revisit that old work.
Mhm. At one point I went back. There are certain images, and I said, God, I know where in the city it was, but what intersection was that?
Right?
And I went back and with Google Maps, I went back and I found the exact place where
Wow.
all these places were shot, and I made a little notation, that
That's
you
so
know if
cool.
you go back and you stand right in this spot and look in this direction, you'll see the background of what that photograph is. It's
Right.
kind of fun, to do something like
Yeah. And to have that resource now, because
that. Oh yeah.
we didn't have that. I mean, I used to walk around, with a paper map,
Oh
like,
yeah.
where am I?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much easier now. I don't know how we got around, to be
I
quite
don't
honest with
either. I mean, there was a period of time I remember when I very first moved. I'm not in New York anymore, but I also lived there for almost 10 years.
you. Uh-huh.
And when I first moved there, I remember getting lost and I called my dad and I was like, I don't know where I am and I don't know how to get to where I'm going and can you help me? And we were, I'm from Detroit. So I'm calling my dad from Detroit and he's like, okay, walk to the corner. What street are you on? Like, what are you facing? And like, I didn't know my north, south, east, west.
Right.
And he somehow found a way to like navigate me to like the closest train, like where
Hmm.
whatever it was, like the closest train station or
Right.
and I just I just remember those days of like all the time calling my dad, I'm lost. I
Where am
don't
I?
know how to,
Yeah.
he's like, you need to learn how to properly read a map,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it would have been really helpful.
Yeah. Well, New York is kind of an easy place because
It
the
is.
streets are east-west and
Mhm.
the avenues are north and south. It's just when you get down past 13th Street, past Washington Square, and everything turns into just,
Names because
it's, yeah,
you're at named streets
yeah,
and not numbers and avenue, right?
exactly. And it's a mess, and you got to figure out how to figure it out. But that's where the map
Right.
comes in.
Well, I always had like my destination spots. Like if I knew where the store was, like,
Hmm.
that's how I would like landmark where I was to my dad. I'm like, I'm at the diesel store on Lexington and Third or whatever, like that's how I
Yeah,
could like
yeah,
figure out how to get
yeah.
around.
Or you get on a
It's terrible.
subway and you get on the first time I was there, I got on an express. I thought I was going downtown, and I got on a northbound express. Next thing I know, I'm in Harlem and I'm getting out. And I mean, it was green, and I had a I had a Kodak projector, and I was just, I didn't know what I was doing, and I had to
Right?
go outside and across the street and back down. I was, it was really wild. And back in
It
the
is.
80s, it was a different, up there was a little different feel than it is now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Remember when I mean, I remember when I was a little kid and Times Square was all like peep
Oh, wow.
shows and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's the film I was revisiting was like my old Times
Yeah.
Square stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was just fascinating.
But
Anyway,
it was more interesting.
it
It was
was. It
dangerous
was
and it was kind of
no.
creepy, but wow, you can get some amazing photographs.
It really was so much more interesting. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know about you, but once I lived in New York, I didn't want to go near Times Square. I
Yeah.
meant,
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
it
That
was
was
like
avoided. Yeah. There was
exactly.
no
It's
reason to go there. Yeah.
exactly no reason. Um, so back to, more New York. I kind of based this around New York because it was what I felt like you were showing more of your
Hmm.
work, the
Hmm.
questions, but feel free to like, you
Okay.
know, go off on a different subject.
Sure.
What did New York feel like from behind the camera then? We just talk, I mean,
Well,
as we just sort of,
yeah, people write about New York now. They write about the 80s New York and how just incredibly dangerous it was, and all the drugs and I didn't I I didn't feel afraid of being on the street in New York in the 80s. It just maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I was a little
it's,
naive, but
I
but it,
agree. I agree with you. I never felt really unsafe. Like
right.
I never felt scared,
Hmm.
whether I was behind the camera or not. I mean, I
Hmm.
was much younger. I mean, in the 80s, but
Yeah.
once the 90s, it was just like fearless.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the 80s and the 90s, I mean, there's a transition period there, but it was a bit the same. It was a slow-ish
Yeah,
transition there. But
yeah.
yeah, I never felt intimidated. You had to watch what you were doing,
Right. You can watch your
which
back. Right.
now, you
Sure.
kind of have to not, be looking around behind you all the time, but
Right.
just have to have street awareness.
Exactly. And I think as photographers in general, we have a tendency to be more aware of our surroundings anyway. Like, I
Hmm.
just feel like it's a more intuitive wiring that photographers have.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question. What should a street photographer avoid shooting?
I think anything that's in public is fair game. That's the way I look at it. However, um, I avoid homeless, uh, the uh, you know people that really can't fend for themselves and are they're kind of in a vulnerable position. I don't feel like that's something that I should shoot. Now, if there's something that relates to that vulnerability or then and it says something, if there's a statement, if it creates some sort of emotion, then I may photograph it. Some people avoid children,
Hmm.
but I shoot kids all the time. I find them fascinating because
Yeah.
they're so unaware I mean, they're not jaded, and uh, but that's something that you kind of have to be careful about a little bit. I had a lady really get on me once when I was photographing some stuff. There were these kids running around, and so I was shooting what they were doing because it was interesting. She said, well, you can't photograph children. And, I said, well, actually I can. I won't photograph your kids if you don't want me to. I'll respect your
Sure.
wishes, but legally you can photograph anybody that's in public, whether it's a child or whatever. But you have to use some judgment.
Yeah.
Um, you can't try not to look too creepy while you're doing it. So, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
just you know, use your own good sense.
Have you ever had any really bad experiences with shooting people on the street?
Not really bad. I've had people that have gotten upset that because they could tell I've been taking their photograph, uh, and in those cases you just move on. I haven't had anybody physically accost me or really get in my face. Well, close once, but
Right.
um, it's you kind of feel it out a little bit. You can tell who might be, aggressively, you know, opposed to you wanting to take
Yeah.
a photograph. So you just have to kind of read the room.
Right. This isn't actually on my question list, but I was just thinking
Mhm.
about it. Going from fashion and editorial to the streets,
Mhm.
how did you feel like an enormous amount of freedom making that transition, or were you, even when you were shooting, I guess based on what I read, you were still shooting on the streets while
Mhm.
you were doing fashion and
Right,
editorial,
right,
correct?
correct.
Okay. So, did you feel a sense of freedom from the streets that you just couldn't get from the fashion and editorial? Was it a different feeling?
Yeah, yeah. It's because you're shooting for yourself
Yeah.
when you're on the street. And I would always I have a Leica M6, and I still shoot with the same Leica M6 that I shot back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Uh, and when you're shooting for yourself, you're not having to shoot for a client. And but a lot of my fashion work uh, had had a street quality to it. I would shoot always. I loved to shoot on location. Just
Okay.
take a location van around, and then we'd stop and we'd run around the corner and we catch. We'd find people congregated and doing things, and we'd do a fashion shoot with all this stuff going on around. So it had kind of that feel to it, but as far as I mean, you're still shooting for a client, so
Right. I'm asking that question really for more the viewers than for myself, because
mhm.
I know that world.
Mhm.
So a lot of
Yeah,
people don't, and they don't understand in that world that, like, even though you're the creative, like, you don't have creative control.
right,
There's just a lot of people hovering over you, and
right,
you're basically pressing the shutter. Like, you don't
right.
you don't get final say in what
Yeah,
you're actually photographing. So, yeah.
it's shooting editorial. I shot a lot of editorial. When I was shooting for Vogue or GQ or Rolling Stone, and they basically you had a lot of freedom to shoot. At least back then, there was a lot of freedom to shoot what you wanted to shoot because they're hiring uh, photographers for their style and for what they
Right.
do, what their look is, their point of view, uh, and uh, But when you start to shoot uh, for advertisements or
Hmm.
for any kind of commercial, you know, then it's a whole new game. Then
Yeah.
it has to, and the pressure's on.
The pressure's
You
on.
got yeah, it can get pretty tense at times, but
Yeah. Absolutely. Somebody asked, do you have a favorite a book, favorite street photography book? I think that was the question. It went up on the screen pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, I love Gary Winogrand, uh, and I think I can't remember the name of the book, but it's the one with the little girl in Arizona
Hmm.
on the driveway, and then you see the mountains in the background, or
Hmm.
it's kind of a very stark image.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe that I have several books that I absolutely love, but I think that one is pretty great.
Yeah. Who was, who was some of your, was he, I assumed he was among them, but of like street photography inspiration.
Well, I mean, Winogrand, when I first started Cartier-Bresson, I mean, that
Okay.
was the person that I learned, oh, this is great. Uh, um, Elliot Erwitt,
Hmm.
Lee Friedlander, you know,
The classic, iconic.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of who I looked at. But I mean, Winogrand, there have been several people that have compared, you know, they said, well, it looks a little like Winogrand, but, you know, he had sort of a restless energy to his photographs, and mine are quite a bit more restrained. Uh,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of difference there.
Yeah. That look, I feel like you're, well, it depends. But if you like the more what's the word I'm looking for? um your work is quite similar in a different way, but to Don Hudson too. Are
Hmm.
you're familiar with
Yeah.
Don, right?
Hmm.
You got,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. You guys, I
Yeah.
mean, your work reminds me of each other a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's different.
I
You
love his
know.
work, and that you know he's in the Midwest, and
Yeah.
some of his images are absolutely amazing, and I love looking whenever he posts something. It's immediately go take a look at
Yeah.
it.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
whole different
Uh-huh.
okay, so let's see. Were you shooting major fashion magazine work at the same time? Okay, we already went through that.
Uh-huh.
Did carrying your Leica everywhere shape the way you moved through the city?
Sometimes when I was just out to photograph, uh, when okay, I'm going out, gonna just hit the streets. Then you start migrating to different areas that you know that there might be something, or you see something going on over here. And then sometimes you never intended to be at a certain spot at a certain
Right.
time. It's just you kind of wind up being there. But most of the photographs outside of uh, the images when I was in Milan uh, are things that I just came across as I was going someplace. Maybe I was going to
Okay.
the lab, or uh, there's an image of a bunch of people standing in the street at night, and there's steam coming up, uh, and it looks kind of like Night of the Living Dead almost.
Hmm.
But that was coming back from dropping some film off at the lab that I was dropping up
Hmm.
for editorial shoot. The one of the chicken. I don't know if you know that one. There's one with a car with a
I think
chicken on
so.
top, and then
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
this the Empire State Building, and there's a guy in a chicken suit in there, and that was half a block from where I live. I was coming back from picking up some
Yeah.
equipment, so it's just wherever I would go, I'd always have that Leica on my shoulder, and New York is you can't go 2 blocks without something
I
strange
know. Happening.
happening.
I
So
know.
it's
I know.
yeah.
So it was really more of just kind of like lifestyle for you? Like you do, it sounds like you didn't really say, okay, like today I'm just going to go shoot on the streets. It was more like,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to run errands and I'm taking my camera with me. Is
Right.
that correct? Is
That's
that
that's
kind of
pretty much it.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people like block out a whole day and they're like, I'm going to
Yeah.
shoot, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I
Well,
don't know.
I would
It's
do
hard.
that.
Like, I don't,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like because you're like looking for something that it's like less likely to happen. Like it feels more forced that way to me. I don't know. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
everybody's different, but
Well, I I would go out occasionally. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of times when I would just go out to shoot and see what would happen.
okay.
But the thing is, you you can shoot 5, 10 rolls of film, and it you'll have nothing.
Right.
I mean,
Oh,
you
I
just won't
know.
have anything, and it's. I'm not saying it's luck, but just everything comes together occasionally, and you find it. Uh, I mean, I just got through processing some film a few days ago, and went through a lot of film. And what happens is, I think, is that you remember a photograph that you think you took, and you are going through your contacts. Where is that shot? I don't know. I know I took this photograph, and it's what you thought you got isn't necessarily what you
Right.
got, uh,
Right.
which is kind of the difference between digital and shooting film. Digital, you can, you shoot something
Yeah.
and you can look down and uh, see if you got it. But with film, you have to wait a few days or a
Yeah.
week or whatever.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Do you ever shoot color?
Not anymore.
Okay.
I just shoot Tri-X with my M6, and that's pretty much it. Um, and that's an interesting process. I shot digitally professionally when I would shoot commercially.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would shoot digital, and then when I decided to really go back and start shooting a lot more street work, I went back to the film, back to the M6, and it's a really different experience between shooting digitally
Yeah.
and shooting film, as you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely. Um, so at the time, did you think so I guess basically back in your New York days, at the time, did you think you were building an archive or was it just personal exploration?
I think it was personal exploration. Um, I didn't print a lot of my work back then. It would just be contacts. And
Yeah.
so I guess it was about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I decided to go back and look at the negatives again. See, I hadn't seen this stuff in,
30
years,
years. Right.
years, decades. And I started looking through and oh, this is different. It has a different feel now,
Yeah.
with all this time passed. And things that well, there are things that I really recognized back then as being something really worth it. But uh, I would run across an image back then, and go, oh, this looks interesting, but I'm not, going to pay much attention to it. Well, decades later, I look back at it and go, you know what? That's not a bad image.
Right.
And it's interesting how time changes
Yes.
things. Yeah,
And it's exciting too. Like, don't you kind
it
of
is.
get excited now when you're going back through it and you're like, okay, is there like another really good one in here? Some,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, you go through it once. You go through the first time, and you're picking all these things out. And then you go back a second time, and like, how did I miss that? You know,
Right?
and it's really interesting how your mind, how your eye changes
Yes,
over time. How
absolutely.
time will change what an image means.
Yes. Um, do you shoot any digital now or no?
Well, I shoot on my phone.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
So yes.
yeah, a lot of cat pictures on my cell phone. Uh, but I, well, a few, I don't know, it was maybe a year ago, probably less than a year ago, I had an assignment to shoot one of the No Kings rallies. And I went and I shot digital because it was for a client.
Okay.
And, it's a fast turnaround.
Right.
With film, it's a real process.
Yeah.
But with and you don't really know, you know, what, shooting film can get expensive. So you can't just sit there and
Hmm.
fire off 20 shots of one thing. And but I shot digital, and it made me realize it was the first time I had shot digital street type of work,
Okay.
and I thought, wow, this is interesting because you know you just you could capture more stuff that way. Uh,
Yeah.
so digital's it's it has its advantages.
It does. I mean, because you
Mhm.
can just shoot so many frames and,
Right.
and then go back and edit. Whereas,
Yeah.
you do that with film and you're out like $1,000 real quick, if
Well,
not more.
real fast. Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, when you're shooting digital, you're always kind of looking back in time. You're looking at that screen, and it's like, maybe something's going on over here, and you're down looking at the screen. So it's with film, you can never look back. You always have to be. It forces you to go forward all the time.
Right, right. That's an interesting perspective. I didn't think about it like that. Um, so we talked about what it was like to rediscover those contacts decades later. Where were there images that you overlooked back then that feel important now?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's quite a few, and well, I don't know. I think it's just like I said, your eye changes, or you start things that were shot way back then. I'm talking about the '80s and way
Yeah.
back. Uh, uh, they were current when I would look at the context.
Yeah.
Now there's also there's a layer of time and fashion and just the way the background looks, that makes them different. But I mean, you could see, like I said, you could see that there's something there, but you don't really recognize it until much later, and it becomes
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So how does it feel to share work that once felt private?
Uh, it's interesting. I had a show in Tbilisi, Georgia, and they put up a lot of my work in this gallery. And I walked in, and there was all of this stuff, and I'd never seen all my work on the walls like that, and it was startling to see that, and I mean, it felt great, but it's like, whoa, this is
Did you
really
feel like vulnerable in a way that you had never felt before, in a certain sense?
in a way. I think anybody that throws their art on a wall, there's a vulnerability there. People have different opinions, and
Right. Oh,
uh,
yeah.
you don't. You can have 10 people say, "I love your work. I think it's great," and then that one person comes along and says, this is terrible," and it's all gone.
And that's the one that you focus on,
That's the one you
those
focus
10,
on.
It's like,
Why didn't
why?
why
What didn't
didn't
they
I?
see? What
Uh-huh.
didn't resonate with them,
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just you have to just trust yourself.
Yeah. Um, how does the limitation of, 24 or 36 frames affect your eye or discipline?
Well, you can't just fire off a lot of film for no reason. Um, just thinking that, well, this, maybe something will be there. Uh, you have to be a little bit more deliberate with what you're shooting. Uh,
Yeah.
you have to, it focuses your eye a little more when you know that you're shooting film. Uh, but, there are times when you shoot a lot of film, like I said, and
Yeah.
you get nothing. I mean, things just don't quite line up. But it does focus your eye a bit when you're uh, thinking of when you're shooting film. Um, but it's just a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you hope people recognize about humanity when they look at your work today?
Well, I I think that people are basically the same as they were 40 years ago, or probably 100 years ago. People are just their emotions, the way they uh, they respond to other human beings and to environment. It's all humans. I think react the same as they did a long time ago.
Really?
I
You don't
think
think
so.
you don't think it's worse? Like people are more distracted, more self-centered. Like there's, I mean, technology is great and horrible. I mean, it's a double-edged sword,
Right.
So, um, it's, but you really feel that they're the same. I don't, I mean, I'm just,
Well, I mean, I think people were pretty self-centered back then too. They're pretty selfish, and I mean, we did have a couple of world wars, and that was
Yeah.
pretty crazy stuff. But I think, you know,
I
I don't
guess,
know. Maybe it's gotten better. I mean, look, we don't have as many wars now as we used to. I mean, they're smaller and a little more,
right.
isolated. But I'm not a scientist, scientist of,
Right.
but
Right. Maybe it just seems like it's worse because there's so much on social, like we have social media and technology where we see
mhm,
it more, whereas
yeah,
we didn't see it the way that we
that's.
see it now. So maybe that's the difference,
I think you hit it there. I
you know?
think that we're just inundated with,
Yeah.
the latest news. I mean, I know if I hear something, well, this was news a week ago, I'll go, well, things have completely changed in a week. So, I don't,
Right.
I got to find what happened like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That's what the real news is. Yeah, we're just exposed to these things all the time.
Right.
And I mean, sometimes for the good. I mean, if you've got cameras everywhere,
Right.
people don't misbehave if they know they're on camera, or at least
Right. Some of them.
most people don't.
You're right.
Yeah.
So one of my last questions is, what keeps you what keeps you curious now? What keeps you going? What keeps
I think the same thing that had me curious back in the 80s. I, uh, I uh, just, it's that excitement of taking the image and feeling that it's invigorating. I love going out and being out. I feel like in my 20s or 30s when I go out
Yeah.
and shoot. It's timeless. You just feel this
Yeah.
energy. Yeah.
Well, okay, there's two good questions here, and
Okay.
then we have about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
When was the last time you missed a money shot due to the end of a roll?
Well, a few times.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's a quote from Gary Winogrand that somebody asked kind of the same question, uh, and he said, "Well, nothing happens while I'm changing film. You know, there's no images worth shooting if I'm changing film.
Right.
So you
There you
can't
go.
worry about what
Okay.
you lost.
Right. Right. Makes sense.
And
And
hey,
then what?
when the card's full and you got to change your card, you may miss a shot. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Um, what advice would you give young photographers who are obsessed with gear rather than the moment? That's a great question. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, it is a great question. I mean, the whole point is the image. For me, uh, you can have the latest and greatest equipment around your neck, and if you don't deliver, if you don't have the eye, or you don't try to get the right shot, yeah, it'll be in perfect focus, and the
Right.
exposure will
Right.
be right on, and all that. But what have you got? Uh, I have a lot of
Exactly.
images that are great focused and exposure is perfect, and I wouldn't,
There's
they're
no
they're no
substance.
good. Yeah,
Right. Right. Right.
yeah,
There's
mhm,
there's got to be some hook in it, you know?
right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um, this has been great. I've really enjoyed speaking with you and getting
Well,
your, perspective on past, present. What about the future? What do you think the future has to hold?
uh, more of the same.
More
It's
of the same? You're
yeah.
doing more shows?
I've got a couple of things that are kind of in the works.
Okay.
We'll see what happens with that. But I still go out and I still shoot and uh, look for look for groups of people. It's a little different in Houston because it's not
Yeah.
quite like New York City, but
Right.
there are places where you can find and uh, y- you know um, anywhere you go, even in a small town, you can find that kind of human interaction and
Hmm.
those kinds of things that will make a great street shot. You just have to look
What
for it.
a- what about book? Like, do you ever plan on doing a book?
Yes, I'm exploring that. I'm uh, just talking with a few people, and
Talking about.
eventually I'd love to have a book.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Um, do you have, Charles, have you one of your images placed above all your, so do you have a favorite image of your own?
The famous favorite image. Uh, you know, that's difficult. I mean, I have ones that I like more than others,
Sure.
uh, but I like the steam shot. There's a photograph of the woman reading the newspaper in the fur coat, and there's some things that uh, I really like that I haven't shown because it's I kind of waiting just to drop some things here and there.
Sure.
But yeah,
Sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I really look forward to seeing more of your work posted on Instagram. I really enjoy, what you're doing and um, for reminding us how powerful, photography is, fleeting moments, human elements, films, keeping up with film.
yeah,
I mean, I recently just had a couple of content, net, like maybe it was like a half a roll of film scanned. I don't have a scanner myself,
Um,
and it was a pretty penny. So I was like,
yeah.
I can see why everybody, went digital, but there's still nothing like film. So
Hmm.
I really appreciate the photographers who continue to shoot film. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think so too. But
Yeah.
so,
So,
but
do you have anything
appreciate
else?
what's that?
No, I was just going to say, do you have anything else specifically that you want to add that I missed?
I don't think so. I think you've covered most of the bases there. So, but I
Uh,
appreciate you inviting me to do this, and
yeah,
it was
absolutely.
uh, it was fun.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And it was nice to meet you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Okay.
And, hopefully we'll see you back on here at a later date.
I'd love to
All
do it
right.
again.
Thank you,
Okay.
Charles. Nice
Thanks,
meeting
Meredith.
you.
Appreciate
Okay.
it. Bye bye.
Yep. Bye bye.